Hey guys, Preconnotation Points here. I'm reading through a story app right now, and as usual, this isn't the first video, so go check those out before you start this. I haven't gotten back into the app since I left off with chapter 1. I go in, and then it finally shows me a screen where I can view all the other stories. It's also saying, free episode every hour. Since I hadn't actually turned to the second chapter of this before I close the app, I'm going to scream if I have to wait an hour just to continue reading, even though it's been several days now. Mercifully, there will be no screaming. Chapter 2. We open on Lola apparently having awoken Kelly from another steamy dream. At least we're not being subjected to that out-of-context nonsense. Again. Also, Lola continues to be best friend of the year and calls Kelly lazy donkey for having fallen asleep, except she doesn't say donkey. We rehash the plot with Callie feeling guilty over the debt her parents are getting into because her mom is sick and how they need to take out a loan, so she's decided to try and sell her blocked cave. Kelly even mentions that the thought of selling her body and certain services make her feel like a three-letter word that starts with S worker, and I'm honestly surprised at how positive that the story is being about people who work in that career, so it gets a begrudging point for that alone. But Kelly is still certain that most of the guys on a site to auction off your blocked cave must be creepy sugar daddies, and she thinks about just downloading Tinder. Kelly expresses her fears to Lola and goes on to explain that she's never really had anybody express an interest in her before. Lola promises to look out for her friend and says that she won't let the guy kidnap her, which, holding somebody against their will isn't kidnapping, that's just illegal restraint, but I understand the point. After a lot of hemming and hawing about the issue on Kelly's part, she eventually gives Lola the go-ahead to try and find a guy on some blocked cave auction site. As Lola is distracted with this, Kelly realizes that she has a missed call from somebody named Alex. Lola is of the impression that this is a bad thing, but since we don't know who Alex is, this is kind of out of context. I think that it's some guy that Kelly keeps going out with, which I'm not quite sure why it is that she's complaining about being unable to find a boyfriend, though I kind of get the impression that he's way more into Kelly than she is into him, and if that's the case, gather around and let me impart some wisdom that only comes with age. You've probably heard not to string people along when you're not interested in them, but seriously, just tell them that you're not interested and move on with your life. You have no idea how awful it is to be the one being played. Like, it hurts when you go on a date and the other person says, thanks but no thanks, but it hurts even more if you've been going out for a couple of months. Alex mentions that he ran into Kelly's father at the store, but Kelly quickly shuts that line of conversation down. He asks about hanging out with her, but Kelly uses Lola as an excuse. Alex seems distracted and quickly hangs up. After that, Lola calls Kelly out on her nonsense, saying that Kelly is making up excuses not to hang out with Alex, and if she's not interested in Alex, she just needs to say so. Thank you! Kelly goes on to say that she and Alex have been friends forever and she's just not interested in him like that. And I get that, but I feel like she needs to set clearer boundaries with her and Alex or else she's going to lose him as a friend. She also explains to the reader that she had her first kiss with Alex, which she chalks up as awkward desperation. However, Alex saw it as a love confession, which, yeah, time to have a long conversation with him. Kelly also explains how she became friends with Lola. She was being bullied and Lola stood up for Kelly. I'm not sure that I care, because I still think Lola is an awful person, but whatever. Lola then tells Kelly that it's time for her makeover, which then results in a really long passage about Kelly's hair. It's blonde, in case you're wondering. Lola always dyes her hair, and it's currently also blonde. Lola then puts some makeup onto Kelly. She protests a little, complaining that when she actually does go to meet the guy, that she wouldn't be all made up and everything. But not to worry, because Kelly is naturally pretty, although I'm confused as to why Lola wouldn't make Kelly up for her date. But whatever, logic is clearly not the strong suit of this author. And then, despite the fact that Lola is literally right there to take a picture of her friend, she tells Kelly to take selfies instead. Kelly is somehow not on the same page and is confused as to why she needs to take selfies. Lola has to explain that it's for the profile and that the blocked cave auction is going to be tonight. And I don't know. The first chapter kind of started off exciting and bad and everything, but the second chapter was a complete and utter letdown. I feel like half of this stuff could have just been skipped and we could have gone straight to the auction, especially since Callie had already agreed to do it at the end of the last chapter. Debating if I want to go ahead and do the third chapter or not. I'm not sure how many episodes are in this, and it might make it go faster. But this is a side project, so what the heck. Chapter 3. The next day, despite Lola having warned Callie to stop stringing Alex along, Callie goes to meet Alex. However, he asked if I wanted to go out later, and of course I didn't know what was going on, so I said yes. Otherwise I would have said no. I had wanted the call to end. I didn't want to be a donkey hole and cancel the whole thing. Right, so instead she's being a doormat now so that she can be a donkey hole to Alex later by breaking up with him. How is that somehow better? At least Kelly tries to reassure herself that hanging out with the mall with him doesn't feel like a date. They make painfully awkward small talk about superficial topics. Honestly, they don't really sound like they've been friends for a long time. He finally tells her that he remembers that Lola and Kelly lived together, so Kelly says that the two of them were doing secret girl stuff until insanely late last night. They end up in a clothing store because this story hates me, and Kelly is looking at a fancy party dress. Alex says that he's never seen her in a dress like that, but Kelly says that she never has any reason to get dressed up like that. He brings up when his car broke down and they went to McDonald's. He calls it a date, and he wanted for Kelly to kiss him again. And cue Kelly feeling bad for leading him on, but her never actually doing anything to let him know how she actually feels. Ugh. He then proposes that they should go on another date and he'll buy her the dress, but Kelly doesn't want to go on a date with him, nor does she want the dress. However, Alex is apparently walking the line between being sweet and being a sad incel who thinks women owe him happy female fun times and seems to take her trying to tell him that she only just wants to be friends as an acceptance for a second date. So Kelly's main personality trait is a spineless doormat. Got it. Alex then acts like he left his phone at the table they'd been sitting at earlier and asks Kelly to go look for it for him. She goes because she's a nice person, but then she gets upset when he comes back with the dress she'd been looking at, and then literally pressures her into a second date simply because he bought the dress for her. Okay, you know what? Alex is not a nice guy. He's just an incel who seems to think that Kelly owes him things simply because he is male. Rather than feeling bad about leading Alex on or him manipulating her like that, Kelly's just upset over what Lola had told her. No dating until after her blocked cave has been auctioned off. And thinking about that only just leads Kelly down a path of further shame and embarrassment. She's also thinking about settling. For Alex or not, we don't really know. And then, because I guess the plot was dragging a little too much and Kelly thinking about this a little too hard, Lola calls. She says that somebody had bid 400,000 for Kelly's blocked cave. And I was literally not asking, hey, let's make the creepy blocked cave auction story creepier by adding in an incel guy friend, but here we are. Also, this app has the option for people to leave comments at the end of every chapter, kind of like fanfiction reviews, I guess. And the top comment is, you guessed it, I want to auction off my blocked cave. Which is exactly what I was talking about in the first chapter. Stories like this are dangerous for impressionable young girls. Please do not do this. I don't care if these people were joking around. There are enough innocent young girls out there who don't know that this is a joke, and they don't know how to protect themselves. Things like this make me so insanely angry. I'm still not promising to keep to a proper schedule for this side project, so I'll see you when I see you.